Have you ever felt a little off? Like, man, something is just awry and I'm not quite sure what that might be. And then you look at your phone or a calendar and you see, oh, there is an impending date that is a traumaversary that is on its way. That is what continually happens for me. My body is often far more keen and aware of what is going on in this war zone of a mind rather than me in reality land because I'm not currently in those traumatic kind of experiences. But when I took a look at the date last week, which was the beginning of June, I was like, oh, you're feeling a little bit off because on June 15th, you will be celebrating 15 years sober. And whilst that is an incredible feat that I never ever thought would be available for me or something that I would want, it also kind of catapults me back into the times when things were really scary and they were really hard. And the few days up to me quitting alcohol for good were awful. At this rate, I was 22 years old, living in a lofted Brooklyn apartment with two guys that were straight edge, and I was just a catastrophe of a human. I had found alcohol when I was 16, and it really cured a lot of the discomfort in my body. And unfortunately for me, my trajectory was that I would fall in love with this liquid that was also chipping away at all of the good parts of who I was. And it meant that I put myself in precarious situations. I would hang out with humans that were abhorrent. I would give myself to men night after night because I was desperate for a connection. And these few days leading up to this big anniversary is it's shocking how it's still hard. It's baffling that my body will remember those humans that I was with. And hilariously, I think it was probably the month of May, I did 30 days of no drinking. And the way that I chose to celebrate was to go out to an unlimited mimosas brunch where I then caused myself to purge so I could drink more. And in my heart of hearts in that moment, I thought that was normal. I thought it was acceptable and okay and something that anyone would do if they wanted to continue partying. So it wasn't weird. And looking back at that, I just have so much love for that tender version of me. And I won't go into the nitty-gritty details of everything that went down my last night drinking, but the cliff notes are that uh, a friend that I loved beat me up. I was in a motel in Queens and it was a man and he had caused a lot of harm to me. And unfortunately, he would continue to cause harm well after the point of when I quit drinking. And he would turn that evening into a comical scenario where he would relay it to friends about how outrageous I was, or, fill in the blank. He would tell lies about what had happened between us, and it would damage my friendships to almost the time when like there was no repair available. And I had to call my dad to come and pick me up because I didn't know where I was and I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't know why I was bleeding or why I was laying on this disgusting, dingy carpet of a motel in Queens with a box of wine with the spigot open, just pouring into my mouth after the catastrophe that had happened. It was really crazy. And my body still holds that, which is probably why I ended up being drawn into working with the modality of breath work because this body carries so many stories like this. And unfortunately, my last night drinking was not abnormal. It was not a circumstance that had only happened once. My life was a lifetime movie, and most of my friends thought I would die. And to be fair, I think I wanted that at one point or another. That's a lie. I think I wanted it. I definitely wanted it. I had no desire to keep on living. And it makes me so sad because I could have missed out on all of this. So as I am approaching this Traumaversary, I am so grateful for my friends who will listen to me, will hold space and be like, yeah, tell me anything. Go into it. What's happening under the surface? I did not ever think that I would be entering the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, let alone be there for 10 plus years, but it saved my life. And this weekend, I got to spend some time with a friend of mine who I also know from the rooms. And it was just so glorious that even though I'm no longer an active participant of that program, I still am not drinking because that is poison for me. The connections that I made in those rooms were life lasting, and they really touched my heart in so many miraculous ways and gave me so much purpose for my 20s. I think because I used to, when you speak at a meeting, they call it qualifying. And I used to qualify at meetings all the time. I got really good at telling the nitty-gritty bits of my story for the oohs and the ahs and the head nods and the claps and the laughter, because even in the deepest points of pain in those rooms, somebody else is going to relate to you and make you feel not alone. And now that's not anything I get to be a part of, right? Like I'm not going around talking about these insane moments with what I mean, when you're in the rooms, you call other people normies because like you can drink normally. But I'm not regaling these insane stories anymore. So a lot of them I feel like have worked their way out of my body. But there's definitely still those points that are sticky, that are like, oh, and in May, I also had this experience where I was like, oh man, I am in a funky mood. Like I could not shake it no matter what. And then an ex of mine kept coming to my head, kept coming into my head. And I was like, okay, what's the deal? I don't miss this person. They were harmful. We'll have a tender tale on a narcissistic relationship later. But I was like, what is happening here? And then I looked at the date and I was like, oh, it was his birthday. Of course, my body is going to hold on to this. So I think it's important to remember that our bodies are wise. They're going to try to keep us safe no matter what. And they're going to remind us of those moments when things were really hard to perhaps continue to push us moving forward or whatever the reasoning is. But as I sat here drinking my morning coffee, I couldn't help but think, by golly, 15 years have gone by since I have had a drop of alcohol in me. What a gift. That's 15 years of me consciously not causing harm to anyone else. 15 years of me not hooking up with somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife, me not cheating on people like that anymore. My dad hasn't gotten a 3 a.m. phone call in 15 years. I no longer desire to be anywhere else but right here. And it's just such a gift. So I think I just wanted to come on and talk about this because if you know someone who is struggling, there are so many resources in AA, outside of AA, many different things. If you ever know anyone or if you're struggling yourself, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. Being of service in that regard is something that I miss greatly. And it is still something that I talk about regularly because quitting drinking was everything for me. It afforded me this amazing life that I didn't know was possible for a gal like myself. And for my friends who are the normies and they get to partake in this as they please, think about if you're trying to numb out. Think about if you're trying to run away from something. Get curious as to why you need this momentary release. And I'm never going to tell you not to do it. I think there are many ways to celebrate drinking or recreationally using marijuana that are fun. But just check in and make sure that you're not disavowing your body and you aren't trying to just completely remove yourself, because there's so much joy in being present today. There's so much joy in being able to make decisions that are truly right for me. And I want that to be available for you too. So thanks for coming to this tender tale that really was just moving me today. And thanks for being here and listening. And I mean it. If you know anyone who ever needs help, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I love being helpful in that way. I'll see you in a couple weeks.